Hats would have loved that. They would have partied the night away, and they would have continued on their adventures with Vivi being their permanent crew member, okay? The only thing that happened was Vivi decided to stay. That was her decision, all right? She decided to stay in her country because they just had this massive issue with this rebellion, and they thought that the king was this cruel, malevolent force that was, hoarding all of the rain, and that was found out to all be a lie. That was set up by Crocodile. You know, Crocodile was really the one in charge of everything, and then Mr. 2 was, portraying the king and everything to make the people think that he was, really cruel. And so Vivi realized that, okay, I need to fix a lot of this country's wounds. A lot of the trust of the common people has been lost here in Alabasta. Now that my father, Cobra, is back in power and I have finally returned to the nation, I need to be here to nurse those wounds. I need to be here for my people. And so she decided to stay, okay, because that's where she felt she belonged, okay. But does that just automatically make her not a Straw Hat anymore? Let me throw you another hypothetical scenario. Let's say back at Wano, for whatever reason, let's say Zoro decided to stay at Wano. Let's say Zoro fell in love with Hiyori. Hiyori fell in love with Zoro, and then over the course of the entire arc, Hiyori just he's like, I love you, Zoro, and Zoro's like, you know what, I love you too, Hiyori, and they just decided, Zoro's just like, you know what, I'm just gonna stay here in Wano, guys. I mean, Hiyori, we're gonna get married, we have a happy family, okay, whatever. Would that automatically make Zoro not a Straw Hat anymore? He's like, well, Zoro, you're not on the ship anymore, and you're not traveling with us, therefore you are no longer a member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Get out of here, you know what I mean? You're deciding to stay. No, I feel like if that were to have happened, that completely insane version of events that never would have happened, but if that were to have happened, I feel like Luffy's response to that would be like, okay, Zoro, you want to stay here with Hiyori? Fine, but anytime you want to join back up with us, you can do that. And that was the same arrangement that they gave to Vivi. Now, you might also say that was the same arrangement that Luffy actually gave to Yamato and Momonosuke. I think Kinemon as well. Wasn't Kinemon part of that as well? I don't know. But as the Straw Hats were leaving Wano, they were like, hey, Yamato, Momo, at least with those two. I think Kinemon might have. But it was just like, hey, you guys want to ever come out to sea and be a pirate? Find us, let me know, and then yes, there will be a spot on my crew for you, okay? So I guess in theory, you could also say with that at least, okay, Yamato, they just met at Wano. Like, during the events of Onigashima, they met Yamato. Yamato never really traveled with the Straw Hats before that point, okay? But as the situation with Momonosuke definitely did for a good while, from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa, and then Dressrosa to Zoe, and then half of the Straw Hats split, and then they went to, Wano from there. So, I guess by that logic, you could say Momonosuke is also a Straw Hat, to which a lot of people would, I think, would be a lot more like, okay, no, we're not going that far with it, But the thing with Vivi, though, there was a lot more gravitas to the departure, to the separation between Vivi and the rest of the Straw Hats there. Okay, that was a powerful moment in the One Piece series, to the point where that is some people's favorite moment in the One Piece series, where the Straw Hats are sailing away from Alabasta, Vivi's on the shore with the Denden Mushi. She's simultaneously addressing her nation while doing a farewell to the Straw Hats, which is very pragmatic, okay? For a princess and a politician, Vivi's like, okay, I'm really busy today. I'm gonna do my farewell message and address the nation at the same time. All right, so Vivi's there, and she's crying, and she's saying to her friends, without actually saying to her friends, that she's going to miss them, and she has to stay in the town, and she has to stay in Calabarna, and the capital city, and all that. And so the Straw Hats are sailing away, and they can't really say anything to her because, they don't want, the whole thing to be like, oh, the Princess of Alabasta is in allegiance with the Straw Hat Pirates. So all they can do is raise up their arms with their X's that they drew on there because to represent, okay, not just, to identify each other because of Mr. 2's Mane Mane no Mi abilities, but also it represents their friendship. It's a mark they all made with each other, at the same time. Okay, they all have one. And so they all raise up their arms, and then Vivi and Karu raise up their arms, or Karu raises up his wing or whatever, and they're like, we are now friends forever and, always, and stuff like that. So there was always, I felt like, to me, there was always this feeling of Vivi is a Straw Hat. Vivi was a Straw Hat. Now, even in the data books, and I think in the Viva card, it does mention she is a Straw Hat. Now, the thing is, Oda does not actually sit down and write out all the Vivre cards, so even if it appears in a Vivre card or a data book, for a lot of fans, that's like not good enough because it's not directly from Oda. Like, I don't think there's ever been a situation where Oda has sat down in an SBS and actually written out the words verbatim, Vivi was always a Straw Hat, still is a Straw Hat. Like, that would kind of settle the argument, but, you know. So, I always thought she was, though. I always thought she was. Like, she's a Straw Hat. Like, at any given moment, if Vivi ever wanted to join back up with the Straw Hats, if she picked up a Den Den Mushi and called the Straw Hats and been like, hey guys, I want to rejoin the crew. I want to get back on the Mary and sail around. He's like, well, we don't have the Mary anymore. Sad story. But we have this really cool Sunflower Lion ship that you could ride around on. And Vivi's like, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. Let's meet up. You know, it's like, okay. Something like that was always on the table for Vivi. She just opted to stay in Alabasta because that was her, you know, that was where she needed to be, okay? But now things have changed, and it opens the way for, like, this makes so much sense in the story. From Oda's perspective, from the foreshadowing that was established here, you know, a lot of people were like, oh man, are there going to be any more Straw Hats? Because we're winding down now. We're entering this final saga of One Piece, right? And it's like, okay, well, Yamato didn't join, you know, Momonosuke didn't join or anything like that. There was the theory for a while there that before Momo was turned into an adult by Shinobu with her abilities, there was a theory out there that, like, Momonosuke and Otama are going to join the Straw Hats as, like, apprentice pirates, kind of like how Shanks and Buggy were apprentices on Roger's crew. There was a theory there. And everyone was like, oh, Yamato's going to join. And then, of course, you know, I was like, oh, well, Carrot maybe? And it's like, no, not Carrot. It's like, all right. So there's a lot of theories on, like, who's going to be another Straw Hat. Is there even going to be a next Straw Hat? You know, you had the 10 members. When Luffy set out from Fuchsia, he's like, 10 members. That's about as much as I need. And so the reason, by the way, the 10 number that Luffy threw out was never ironclad to me was, like, I feel like Luffy does a lot of stuff just based off of, like, in the moment, right? And so I feel like, let's say somebody else wants to join the crew and they would be number 11, you know, or rather the 11th member that Luffy asks, because technically, yeah, there are, well, no, there's 10 members solid right now. So that's the other thing. Like, was Luffy counting himself? Because right now there are 10 members on the crew, including Luffy. But Luffy didn't, you know, he's the one that created the crew. He didn't ask himself to join. It was like, looks at himself in the mirror before he leaves. Like, Luffy, do you want to join my crew? Okay, Luffy. And then he's like, all right, let's leave. And so then that's not how it went, right? So there's 10 right now, but did Luffy mean 10 members total or 10 plus himself? So 11, all right? So that's kind of the way you can look at it there. But let's say, it doesn't even matter. Let's say there were 11 members right now. Like, let's say Yamato did join, so there's 11 members total right now. Let's say somebody else wanted to join, and, like, they fit the theme of the Straw Hats perfectly, and Luffy, like, loved them or whatever. Like, oh man, this person's awesome. Like, let's say it's a robot. Let's say one of the Vegapunks want to join the Straw Hats, and Luffy's like, oh my god, you're a robot. That's awesome. You know, would Luffy really be like, well, I would love for you to join my crew. I really would. But I kind of had this number in mind of like 10 people plus myself. And we've already hit that number. So you can't join now. I'm sorry. I'd really like you to. We just don't have an opening at this organization right now. And then that person would be like, oh, like maybe Pythagoras wanted to join, or Edison, you know, just like, oh, I wanted to join Straw Hat. It's like, sorry, there's just not an opening right now, you know, we have your number, if anything opens up, we'll call you, you know, like, that's how it goes, right? No, I feel like Luffy, that's a general number he had in his head, like, yeah, like 10 members, okay, that's cool, but like, if he runs into somebody else, and it all works out, it's just like, hey, I want you to join my crew, I don't care about, like, oh, you're the 12th member, 13th member, who cares, you know? So that's the way I've always viewed that, right? So right now, though, we do have 10 members total, meaning there's 9 people that Luffy asked to join. So there could be one additional member, and the perfect person to fit this role has been obvious. It's been obvious since Alabasta, and that's Vivi, right? It's already established at this point. Vivi already has a dynamic with the Straw Hats, and that's really important, like, thematically, because, like, we're entering this final part. We have Egghead and, like, maybe a couple arcs left, and then we're going to Laugh Tale, right? So it's like, if we introduce a brand new character right now in the story that then joins the Straw Hats, we're not going to really have a lot of time to get to know their dynamic. I mean, like, the Straw Hats really honestly spend, like, disappointingly a few moments in the story actually, like, interacting on the Sunny, like, getting to know one another and just having, like, a back and forth. Like, I really wish there was more of that in the manga, if there was any criticism that I had. This is added on a lot of times in filler in the anime, and there's, like, side comics of One Piece, like One Piece Party and stuff like that kind of tackle that. But I wish there was a little bit more of that in the real story, but that's my point. There's not a lot of that in the One Piece story already. So if you introduce a brand new character and then joins the Straw Hats, and it's like, okay, we're going to get to know our new crew member. Oh, there's Laugh Tale. All right, no time for that. We got to get to the One Piece, you know? But if you could skirt around all of that by just having Vivi back again, right? Because the Straw Hats already know her. They've already interacted with her. They're already friends. Yeah, you would have some Straw Hats, like, for example, Frankie and Brooke and Jinbei, that would know nothing about Vivi other than just what the Straw Hats have told them. All off screen, of course, but yeah. Actually, there was a really good filler episode once when, right after Brooke joined, I think, they did a filler where Brooke was, like, getting to know the crew, and there was a logbook. Like, the Straw Hats, I think Nami keeps a logbook, or maybe it was Robin, one of the two, kept a diary or a journal of the Straw Hats' journeys. And so they were showing that to Brooke, and they were being like, hey, this is a log of everything we've done up until now. So the idea is, like, when Frankie joined, when Brooke joined, when Jinbei joined, and it's like, hey, if you want to get up to date on everything we've done up until now, here's a book that explains everything from, like, the East Blue. It's like, oh, you destroyed Dawn Green's fleet. That was cool. Oh, you wiped out Arlong. Oh, okay. And, you know, like, Brooke and Frankie could, like, read through and know everything that was going on prior to them joining, right? So I like to think that was canon, even though that was a filler episode. The Straw Hats keep some kind of log. At least Robin writes this shit down, you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's that. Robin would actually know Vivi, because Vivi would know her as Miss All Sunday, so maybe that dynamic might be a little bit weird. You know, maybe Robin would be like, hey, I'm sorry about that time I broke Pell's back, but apparently he was strong enough to withstand a nuke, so no harm, no foul, right? And then Vivi's like, alright, well, you know, Luffy trusts you and everything, and you've helped him out, so alright, I guess we'll just all water under the bridge, I guess. And you were, you know, working against Crocodile at the end. Like, you actually did not, like, because Cobra was present during that when Robin did not reveal the location of Pluton to Crocodile. It was written there on the monoglyph, but, you know, she didn't say anything. And so Cobra would have relayed that to Vivi. He's like, oh yeah, Robin, this All Sunday, she actually turned on Crocodile at the end there. She was actually betraying him. And then maybe Vivi was like, all right, maybe she isn't all bad whatsoever. But that would be interesting, though, to see their dynamic. And then Frankie, Brooke, and Jinbei could get to know Vivi and everything like that. So it's kind of like a little bit of a dynamic. I would like to see how they interact again after it's been so long now since they've seen her. But most of the groundwork has already been laid here, all right? We already know about Vivi, so we can just like, all right, Vivi is back. She is officially a member of the Straw Hat crew. Nobody can deny this now. She's here, and she is on her own little quest to try to figure out what happened to her dad, of course. Like, why did he die? How did he die? The whole thing about Im-sama and the Gorosei, and, you know, whatever answers lie there, they're going to be at, like, Laugh Tale or with the One Piece. Like, this is all going to connect back to Laugh Tale in some way, all right? So right now, Vivi and Wapol are traveling in Morgans' flying tea kettle, which is the World Economic Times, like, home base, like their editing room or whatever. So Wapol's with her. And so I don't know how you're going to get the whole Wapol dynamic in here. Maybe Wapol will stay around with Morgans. And so, you know, coming up in the story, we could have a moment where Morgans approaches Egghead, especially with this giant event that's supposed to occur at Egghead Island, like an event that will shock the world. What will it be? I mean, there's going to be a massive battle, but beyond that, I don't know what this is going to be. But you can have a situation where Morgans arrives at Egghead after the big event, or while the big event is still going on, so he can, like, see it in real time and report on it. And then Vivi could just be like, holy crap. Those are the Straw Hats. That's the Straw Hats ship. I'm sure she has never actually seen the Sunny, but I'm sure she knows they have the Sunny now. Actually, Frankie's wanted poster is the Thousand Sunny, so it'd be so funny if Vivi sees the Thousand Sunny and is just like, oh, that's Cyborg Frankie that the Straw Hats ride around on for some reason. Okay, let's go. Like, at least she'll know, and she'll see the Jolly Roger, of course. So she'll know immediately those are the Straw Hats, right? So she'll be like, all right, thanks, Morgans, for the ride. Wapol, screw you, but thanks for helping me get out of Marijois. And then she'll